Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boredom Busters. I am Maddie Paul, hosting the show, joined by the ever-present, ever-lovely, ever-Groton, Perry Groton. We'll think of a good intro for something like this, saying hello. But Perry's a little dazed, and it's all my fault because I told Perry not to read his Boredom Busters list for this episode. In fact, this episode is going to be looking a little bit different than usual. I gave Perry no rundown or no clue as to what's going on today.
Working without a net here today.
Do you have any idea?
I have no clue what you've got up your sleeve.
And this is what I like. I like starting off the show giving you nothing, but we'll get to it in a second. I hope it's fair to say that this episode of Boredom Busters will be a Boredom Buster in itself, because I want us to walk down the Boredom Busters memory lane today. So I have some old clips and see how it's kind of transformed over the years. But I want to start with some context for viewers who maybe don't know that Boredom Busters started as a segment on our weekend morning shows in the late 1990s, right, Perry?
Yeah, back when we first started on a Saturday morning show. Then we started a few months later, we started a Sunday morning show. So those Boredom Busters aired both mornings, both Saturdays and Sunday mornings.
And now, while we're still offering that segment in the weekend newscast, KELOLAND News expanded Boredom Busters as a standalone show on KELOLAND Plus, which you're watching right now. And that launched in September, I believe, of 2025. And so I searched through the KELOLAND archives for the first time ever. Perry, I've never done this before in my life. I've looked at physical tapes before, maybe when I was like 5, but looking through our archives was insane. Looking at those physical tapes, putting in the player, and just seeing what we have. And this was all in an effort to find the very first clips of Boredom Busters. But as you'll soon learn, I had to shift my original idea for this episode. So I want you to take a look at this.
All right.
When I started thinking about what kind of archive footage I wanted to find for Boredom Busters, I imagined finding those first ever clips of Boredom Busters, followed by archived clips of how it's changed over the years. Turns out, the idea in my head is not so simple in reality. When you spend some time digging around hundreds of tapes in the KELOLAND News archives, what you find is that newscasts aren't saved in full. Most tapes are specified by newsroom staff members or general stories. Does that make sense? Let me show you. This is just one section of the KELOLAND archives here in our studio. If you look through, you could see lots of names of old reporters, or sometimes it just says general on it. So for example, if I took this tape right here, it's labeled Groton. Wanna guess why? This tape should be full of Perry Groton stories. Now, inside this case, there will be a tape, but there's also some note cards that tell you what exactly is inside of the tape. They look sort of like this. And then if you read the cards, there's usually a headline that sticks out from the certain story that was placed inside the tape. Because again, we archive by story, not by newscast. This made finding Boredom Busters clips difficult. And alas, my dreams of showcasing how KELOLAND News transformed Boredom Busters over the years won't be completed. For now. But that's because my inspiration has changed. We'll get to my new inspiration in a moment. But first, I want to take you back to that Groton tape. I just know you want to see what's inside. And I bet Perry himself is wondering too. So, let's take a look together. This is the machine that converts all of our archived tapes into digital media. Our newsroom staff members have to use this machine if they are making references to past coverage using archived tapes, or you may even see clips come out of here when you see Flashback Friday segments. We need digital copies because all of our media is digital nowadays. And man, just listen to that voice.
IBP left here because of a shortage of livestock. But Golden Plump says the chicken industry has so far been immune from the downturn in the farm economy.
Checking out these archives and seeing Perry's old stories is just so fascinating. But it's not just from this tape. It's all of these tapes here too. And there's just so many to explore. Digging through Perry's old stories made me appreciate how much of a versatile reporter he is and how much he's transformed his career here at KELOLAND News for over the past 40 plus years. Perry is my inspiration for this episode of Boredom Busters. So enough of me talking. Let's rewatch some of Perry's stories from the early 80s all the way up to the early 2000s. He goes, oh gosh.
Is that what we have to look forward to now?
This is the episode, Perry. We are going to be watching some of your old tapes, seeing how it's progressed from then all the way till now. I will say everyone has to stick around to the end because I think I found my favorite story that you've ever created just based on your stand-up. Okay. Just on that alone. That's all I'm going to say. So everyone stick around. We're going to be watching some old tapes. When we come back for Boredom Busters, you will want to stick around. And welcome back to Boredom Busters, Perry. It's time. Are you ready?
Time for what?
We're going to start watching some of your old tapes, some of your old packages. So after digging through the tapes, I kind of want to start off with this journey for myself. Because again, this was the first time I was looking at the tapes. I had no idea that tapes were stored by newsroom staff member and like what kind of content was filled inside. So what I wanted to do after I learned I couldn't find Boredom Busters really is I just wanted to see if I could find like your first stand-up ever. Because you started working in 1984, right?
84, yes.
84.
September of 84. I was based out of Worthington, Minnesota.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So one of the earliest stand-ups that I could find was from November 2nd, 1984. So what, that's 2 months after you started about?
It must be close to Election Day, I would think.
Oh, good point. This is actually a farming story because I realized, like, again, after like searching through your tapes that in the early 80s, you did a lot of stories, not only from Minnesota, but the standouts were farming related stories. Yeah. And so I think let's start off with this tape and just go from there.
The Reagan administration wants to eliminate some of the red tape at local FMHA offices and in turn speed up the processing of farm loans.
Starting early next year, FMHA offices in southwestern Minnesota will enter into contracts with local banks and private lending firms to handle the paperwork involved in the farm loan application process.
Point is that they are supposed to.
Wait, is it coming back to us out of this?
Free up some of my
yeah, it's showing us now too.
With, I can tell applicants and to spend time with my seriously problem cases that I am having.
This joint effort by the FMHA and private lending institutes is part of the Reagan administration's four-point Farm Credit Initiative
they
program.
Can hear us.
Townswick says the loan program won't help farmers who face immediate foreclosure, but it will benefit those farmers who may be in danger of foreclosure farther down the road. Townswick also says he's concerned that lending firms may not be receptive to working with the FMHA.
My big concern is whether lenders who receive approved lender status do in fact have the personnel and the time to go out and service our loans when they're having many problems of their own.
Area loan officials say they're not yet sure what their roles will be in the new program. They say they are still waiting for more information from the government before deciding what to do.
Yeah.
Barry Groten, Kelloland News, Worthington.
Yeah, that was back in the day when I started there. That was back in the day with the farm crisis was really hitting a lot of farmers in Kelloland very hard. There were times of low crop prices, and a lot of farmers were overextended. There were a lot of bankruptcies going on, and that eventually led to. And Southwest Minnesota was kind of the center of the gravitational center of all this because they had the organization called Groundswell, which was a group of farmers who advocated for better economic conditions for the farming community. And so it was a tough time for a lot of farmers back in the day, one of the worst economic downturns in decades for farmers.
So for you reporting here, is that why you were kind of central in Worthington because you were covering this?
No, that's where our bureau was all the time, but it's just coincidental that the Groundswell group that was mostly based out of Brewster, Minnesota, which is just north of Worthington, but covered a lot of stories about really tough stories about farmers sharing their problems with staying afloat. I remember covering a lot of farm auctions because farmers just couldn't afford to keep their operations going, so they had to sell everything. And some of them would. I remember one. There was a case where farmers came to the aid of another farmer by not bidding on a penny auction. Essentially, they just bid a penny, so to prevent the bank from foreclosing on it because the bank couldn't raise any money on the auction. So it prevented the bank from foreclosing on that particular farm.
What year do you think that was?
That would have been somewhere around 84, 85, maybe 84, 85, somewhere in that area.
You know, not only did I find some videos, but I also found some images to show too. And I got to start off, of course, with one of a classic headshot that I saw from a while ago. But as I was putting this together, Jody Staples, one of our coworkers, came over to the desk here, and he noticed this next image. And do you recognize this?
Yeah, that's Charles Kuralt.
Yeah, and of course you, and of course you. But this is go ahead.
This was our reception. This would have been back around 85 too, somewhere around there. CBS News. Well, if we're talking about speaking about the farm crisis, CBS News sent a crew to South Dakota to cover the farm crisis. In fact, their main anchor at the time, Dan Rather, came out here and anchored the CBS Evening News from our studios. He had a family emergency to attend to. I believe his wife got sick, so he had to leave, and then they sent in Charles Kuralt. And this is a reception. This was a reception with the CBS staffers, and so I had a chance to meet Charles Kuralt and Dan Rather. I remember back then Charles Kuralt was was hosting the CBS Sunday morning show at the time, and I remember him telling us that he always hated breaking news that would happen on an early Sunday morning or Saturday night, because he said it would just screw up our whole format.
Well, look at this. So you were able to leave Worthington for a little bit to come to this reception and meet the CBS crew. And this was, the dated photo, they did have a year for this, because this was in 85? Our digital archive, 86.
86.
That's what it was listed at least for this this photo. But I had no idea that CBS took over. And then looking online on our website too, there actually is an article that Anna Peters created. And it was something about like a Kettleland flashback, top stories of the 80s, and this was a featured part of it. Not this photo, but the fact that CBS did come here and they set up operations so that they could, cover what was going on with the farming crisis. And I just thought, that was so neat. Like, that's something I totally didn't know about or realize or understand until, like, looking through archives and digging all of this up.
Yeah, and I remember being in the newsroom. I'd heard that Dan Rather was in the building, didn't see him, and then I was standing by my Simon editor's desk getting some script approval for a story I just shot, and all of a sudden in walks Dan Rather with his producers, kind of surrounded by his producers, and he stopped by the desk where I was at, and it was kind of interesting the way Dan Rather was talking to his producers, and then he starts looking at me, talking to me about this whatever coverage they were doing that day. It was like I was some kind of a vital part of the coverage, but I had no idea what they were talking about. But just the way Dan Rather. His intense look, he would draw you into the conversation like that.
Were you just a deer in headlights?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
like, I'm meeting a celebrity, I don't know what we're talking about, kind of thing, just completely blank. Well, one thing that's really interesting about seeing, that was the first stand-up I could find, one of your earliest ones, but your voice is crazy. It's like vaudeville.
Yes, well, Scott Mund always says that.
He always says that, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I can kind of hear it now, but, like, looking back in your tapes, I'm like, oh, like, that's straight up vaudeville. Did you, like, brand yourself that way? Or
no, I thought that was kind of the way you want to read fast back in those days, I think, where they had, at least that's the way I was kind of trained at the time, to read fast with a lot of energy and that kind of thing. But it does sound strange. Of course, I was young then too, and my voice hadn't changed yet. Right?
Oh please. This was fun looking at your Minnesota stories. I have more tapes that I want to get to next when we come back after the break. So everyone, stay with us. We're traveling to the 90s. All right, welcome back to Boredom Busters. It's time to continue looking down Perry's memory lane of working here. So, more context. So I'm digging through archives, and I'm just trying to find stories about you and from you. And, in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, you started reporting from Rapid City.
Yes.
So you moved.
Yeah.
And is there another bureau that was over there that you went to?
There was a bureau in Rapid City, and then eventually we got our own TV station out there called KCLO, and we did our own newscasts out there. And I was the news director out there the anchor for that broadcast.
Wow. And, your standout stories there, because, again, I like to keep everything in context. I see the big standout words in the tapes as I'm reading them. The big standouts for me were at least anything that was related to the air base out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Sturgis.
Oh, yeah.
Anything Sturgis. But the air base was a big part of that, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have a Sturgis story that I want to play because this one just made me chuckle and laugh. I don't know. This one was a really cool one. This isn't my favorite story that I found of you, but it is still very, very good. The favorite one is coming up in this next segment. But let's look at this one. This one is from August 11th, 1993. And again, it's about Sturgis. So let's go ahead and play it.
With all these bikers competing for attention, many go to great lengths to stand out above the crowd. Some do it by what they ride, others by what they wear, still others by what they don't wear.
This is a time when everybody can be an individual and be as they want to be. They can dress the way they want, ride the bike they choose. And we appreciate the town of Sturgis letting us do that.
St. Louis biker Ron Stratman stampedes down Main Street as perhaps the rally's #1 attention grabber. Aboard his Buffalo bike, Stratman sports a Buffalo helmet in a publicity stunt promoting his motorcycle and t-shirt business. But Stratman admits that ego also has a lot to do with it.
And then I seen a cowboy riding a buffalo at one of the rallies, and I thought, that's it. All I got to do is put a buffalo on my bike, and it'll draw more attention than anything, and it has.
Thank
All right. You're quite welcome. Y'all have a good time.
Stratman is popular with picture takers and posers in a place where looks are everything. For Midday in Kelloland, I'm Perry Groten.
Isn't that one fun?
Yeah, that was always fun to cover the Sturgis rally. All you do, a lot of times I'd leave my studio in Rapid City and drive to Sturgis not really knowing what I was going to cover for that day. I just pull off on the side street in Sturgis, kind of walk around Main Street for a while, then pretty much the stories just sort of come to you.
I kind of feel like you still do that, don't you?
Yeah,
maybe
not so much
Sturgis,
anymore.
But no, because you do a lot of man on the street, kind of reactive stories.
You always want to try to have some kind of a game plan in mind when you're heading out in a story. But Sturgis was a little different. You never knew what you're going to find there.
You're able to cover a range of topics as a reporter. When I was looking through, and of course, this is still true to this day, elections, breaking news, really tough stories, but you're still really delightful. And you're able to completely flip the script, and you can do very fun stories, like a story about a Sturgis dress code, or even recently when you were with a snake at a reptile zoo. So, what's the secret to balancing harder stories and then also the fun ones?
Well, yeah, I think that really developed well with working based out of Rapid City, because you just have so many people with unusual stories that you kind of have to develop a way to tell a good feature story. But the hard news, the breaking news, that's still the kind of the backbone of the news industry. But it's always nice to kind of have a fun story to kind of ground you in the world, that it's not all bad stuff going on,
Would you rather report on a breaking story, or would you rather have something just planned, ready for you to go day of?
I'll take any kind of story. It doesn't. I don't have any preferences one way or the other.
I kind of figured you'd say something like this. Okay, we're going to end it on this segment, because this next segment, I want to show you my favorite stand-up that had me on the floor laughing, and I'm not even exaggerating about that. Okay, stay with us. We're going to play another clip, and we're going to the 2000s in this next segment for Boredom Busters. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Boredom Busters. All right, I've been saying it since the beginning of the show, so now I have to play it. This was my favorite recording that I've seen so far. When I actually started working here, and I started working here back in March of 2025, I had kind of understood you as the stand-up guy, because you were just really creative with what you like to do for your stand-ups, and that completely followed through as I kept watching you do your stories. So this story just had me laughing so much. This is from November 23rd of 2011. Does any of that ring a bell, maybe?
2011?
2011, November 23rd.
I have no idea what you're going to spring on me.
Here we go.
Toting a golf bag after strapping on the Thanksgiving feed bag is one way to burn off holiday calories. So when warm weather rules, golfers consider a holiday tea time.
If I can get away from the relatives, I will. So you might want to cut that one out.
A fine coating of winter sand covers parts of Elmwood, like a sprinkling of salt on a green bean casserole.
The greens aren't that hard like they usually are this time of year. They're biting, so I played pretty good today. So.
Going for the green will be a nice warm-up for Black Friday.
People ask me why you open on Thanksgiving, and I said, well, I figure if they can go shopping at 10 o'clock on Thanksgiving evening, we can play golf during the day when it's 60 degrees. So that's our new litmus test.
Golfing this late in the year presents a few more challenges than an outing in the middle of summer. For instance, the sun hangs a lot lower into the sky. The fairways are a little firmer, but certainly not as hard as Grandma's Jell-O salad. But really, it doesn't take long at all to get back into the swing of things. I've still got it.
We've never been open on Thanksgiving Day before, and so we're kind of curious as to how it's going to turn out.
The late season at Elmwood means a lot of Thanksgiving couch sweet potatoes can forego football on TV for golf in the warm weather. In Sioux Falls, Perry Groten, KELOLAND News.
That was it, Perry. That had me busting laughing on the floor. So good.
And I really did make a hole in one, too.
You did?
No.
I was going to say, come on, Perry. I had someone walk over, I think, as I was preparing that package to play in this setup, and they saw that part, and they were like, how did Perry do that? How did he get it in there? What kind of cameras? And I'm like, come on. Yeah, come on. There's some Groten magic in there for sure.
Well, mostly the photographer was I wish I could remember who the photographer was. It might have been, could have very well been Kevin Kiergaard.
Probably. You two are like this.
Yeah. We do good work. He and I do good work together.
He might be the next episode because there was a lot of photos of him as I was digging through all those archives, going through everything. You know, Perry, we only have about 40 seconds left of this episode of Boredom Busters. So anything you want to say? What's the secret to working over 40 years in one spot?
Good question. I guess look forward to every story. Every story is a new story. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new story, I guess.
Wow. That's pretty much the takeaway. So thank you for indulging in this episode, Perry. I hope this was a boredom buster in itself. It's fun to look back at the stories that you've done because you've grown a long way. Again, I think it's a very transformative career, very versatile too. And it's really inspiring. I liked recapping this journey, and maybe in the next Boredom Busters, we can do some more. You can tell me your favorites, and we'll play those.
Okay, if I can remember what they are.
Gotta look back. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great weekend.
Yeah.